Hi friends, on this episode I'm doing things a little bit different. This episode is going to be about depression, so it's going to be a little bit more serious. Why am I in a cow suit? Because comedy and laughter is the greatest medicine, and you don't need Obamacare to afford it. So depression is a subject that I've been dealing with my entire life, and though I'm not a doctor or an expert, well, I think because I've been dealing with it since I was like 6 years old, and now I almost dated myself. It would have been the only date that I've ever been on. I've dealt with it for a long time. Here's my voice about it. I've had my days where I just didn't want to continue. I felt awful and so depressed that it was painful. Um, the concept of the future just didn't seem like a thing. I was constantly waking up upset, and I just really didn't want to continue being that miserable. So the concept of ending things just seemed so desirable. However, it seemed like a very awful thing to put everybody through, and so I fought the fight. It's not easy to say that out loud. The problem is there's several different causes for depression, so I've made a few suggestions for ways that I dealt with it and how I got to the other side. So I'm making this video in hopes that it reaches somebody who's struggling and maybe hopefully it helps you. Well, the first important step is recognition, and you must realize that having depression doesn't mean you're broken. No one's perfect. I mean, there's allergies, there's diabetes, there's anxiety, there's stress, there's asthma. The way that I see it is depression is very painful and it's annoying. And so is having allergies or being sick. And you can take medications for being sick and having allergies. So you shouldn't be embarrassed about taking medications for depression and anxiety. It's also a very good suggestion to take medication if you're not sure why you're being depressed, because sometimes you have a reason to be depressed. Maybe like you're experiencing loss, you're grieving, whether that's through death or a relationship ending or the loss of a pet. Sometimes you have a reason or a trigger for depression. Sometimes you have no idea why you're depressed. You just wake up and you're just not all depression is triggered by an event, or a person or something bad happening. Sometimes it's just a chemical imbalance, and that's why you need medication. There's also some strategies that you can take to combat depression. We can combat depression! So there's cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. I find it to be the most effective, and that was just my opinion until science proved that I was correct. To put it simple, it's like homework that challenges the way that you think. So if you have a thought that triggers a reaction, whether it's depression, anxiety, anger, whatever it might be, there are steps that you can take to challenge your thoughts so that you can deal with it better. I'm going to put a chart to make it a little easier, but let me just quickly explain it. Step one is to ask yourself, what happened to make you feel the way that you feel? Maybe you ask a friend to hang out with you and they say they can't because they're too busy working, and then you find out later that they're hanging out and partying with somebody else. Step two, evaluate how that trigger made you feel. Awful, depressed, confused, abandoned, hated. Step three, what is the thought behind that feeling? Maybe you feel like your friend doesn't like you, or maybe they're trying to disconnect from you, or something's wrong with you that made them not want to hang out with you. And then step four is to challenge that thought. There's a set of questions that I'm going to put up.
Chart.
Are there any other ways to think of this event? What are good things about myself that I'm ignoring? Am I using my feelings as fact? Do I have all the facts? Am I expecting too much from myself? Am I expecting too much from others? Am I expecting too little from myself? Am I blaming others? Am I expecting the worst to happen? Am I thinking something is permanent when it could be temporary? Am I blaming myself or taking responsibility? How do I know for sure that this will happen? Am I placing too much value on something? So if we go back to the example that I used about that friend who blew you off, so to speak, that's what happened. Your feelings are you feel awful, depressed, confused, abandoned, etc. Your thoughts are that they don't like you and there's something wrong with you. But then you can actually challenge the way that you're thinking. Maybe you don't have all the facts. Maybe there's something going on in their life that you don't really know about. Are you using your feelings as facts? Does the fact that you feel sad really mean that they hate you? Am I expecting too much from others? Sometimes you set expectations far too high for other people to even comprehend what they're supposed to do, and maybe they don't even know that they're hurting you or causing you to feel the way that you do. So, by asking yourself these questions, you're able to get into a certain mindset to actually combat like your mood. You can start thinking more rational too. A very good way of handling depression and anxiety is to keep yourself really busy. This is a tricky one because you don't want to keep yourself so busy that you're putting off your feelings. And then once you're not busy, they all come tumbling down on you and crushing you. Don't just sit there and just contemplate everything that's bad, because then that's going to add up too. And then you're going to feel like you have a million things wrong with your life. You could just be bored and just thinking too much about that one problem in so many different ways that that one problem seems like a million problems. It's just one. Being productive and keeping your mind off things is very healthy, but don't keep yourself so busy that you avoid your problems. One thing that I find really helpful is to write stuff down or make a video. Humans are problem solvers. And depression can feel like a very complex problem. It's easy to get tangled up in problem solving when you're dealing with life. You got so many things to think about. You don't got, there's too much traffic going on in the brain, and the beep boops, the bops, and the beep honk honk cars in your brain. You can't scramble and thoughts happen. Maybe sometimes it comes up before you can put that thought in a comfortable spot. And sometimes there's anxiety of you have a thought and you haven't solved it, so you keep on looping it in your brain and you're just like, I gotta figure it out, I gotta figure it out, I gotta figure it out. So your brain just keeps on, I gotta figure it out, I gotta figure it out, because it's afraid that it's gonna lose its grip on that problem. So by writing stuff down, you get rid of that feeling of needing to hold it in your brain, and then you could come back to it later until you're ready to solve it. This also helps clear up the traffic that's in your brain, organizes you in a certain way. And it's also really easy to see patterns or routines that you keep on getting into. You might be repeating the same exact problem over and over and over and over again at different times. Seeing it written down is clear. I've had friends say, Nate, every time you come over, you talk about the same thing. Well, if I wrote it down, then maybe I wouldn't. I would say I'm done with it. I put it away, and then I can go on with life. So don't be afraid to write stuff down. Keep a journal. Let's get it out of your head. There are lots of things in life that can get you down. It's up to you to decide whether it's worth feeling terrible about. I struggle with this almost every day. I let a lot of tiny little things ruin my day. And a lot of the times they're so small that I have no idea how I let them ruin my day. Or something happens that's not really bad, but my mind creates this train of thought that's really mean, and I hate it. And I have no facts to back up this story that I've created. And then my brain just makes me feel really awful. So that's where asking questions can really come in handy. Am I placing too much value on something? Is something really worth this discomfort? Am I using my feelings as facts? By asking myself these questions, I can challenge the way I think, much like a football coach could challenge a play if he doesn't think it's a good one. So if you ever have a moment where something gets in the way of you having the best day you can possibly have, ask yourself, does that something have that much power? Or have I just given it that power? Perhaps you will find that you put value on something that doesn't deserve it. A good way that I like to feel better is jokes. Tell jokes, make a jokes, have a jokes, make a jokes, being weird. Watching funny stuff or comedy is really helpful. I don't know if I'm funny, so you might want to look somewhere else for the comedy stuff that I did. The other guys do it professionally and they get money, and I don't know what I'm doing. Also, hearing the laughter of others can really promote happiness. It's kind of like that study that suggests if you fake a smile, you'll start feeling happy. I don't know if it's true. I haven't tried it. Comedians are also really good at finding humor in like terrible things and life's problems. I don't know how they do it, but maybe if you watch enough of those, you can find out how they do it and use it for yourself. Having a good sense of humor can really help you get out of rough places. Finding laughter in tough situations can be a super awesome survival tool. There's lots of science involved with depression and food. The bottom line is food is cool. And there's lots of food out there that can help release dopamine and other chemicals that help the reward part of your brain. Clearly, I'm not a scientist and I don't want to give you false information about brains, but I do know when I ate a piece of chocolate, specifically dark chocolate, 70% is pretty good. Also, when I ate a banana, make sure you open it the good way, not the stupid. Maybe some almonds. I don't know if it's just giving me energy, but I felt better. Exercise is in the same boat as eating food. Exercise! It can release feel good chemicals like endorphins. Also, being in good shape could boost your self esteem. Feel good about yourself is a good way to feel good about yourself. You can meet people at the gym, and meeting people can be alright. Which is a good segue to my next part about talking about being around people. I understand that you're in a rough place, and even when things are pretty good, being around people could be kind of. So, I'm somewhat introverted myself. Believe it or don't believe it. Even as an introvert, I find myself in a better mood being surrounded by other people. It makes me feel less alone and less abandoned. And maybe you feel like I'm not really happy, so I don't wish to burden other people with my problems. Well, maybe don't focus on your problems and maybe just watch a movie or play a game so that you're more engaged with that than your depression. Just be sure to pick a movie that you can handle. Example, when your heart is broke, don't pick a romantic movie because that's not. You're gonna because they always end up happy, and you're like, why can't I? That's where those ridiculously cheesy action movies come in handy, where they got explosions. But regardless, don't be afraid of being engaged with your friends in the time that you need somebody. Maybe your friends are too busy, or you don't have that many friends, and you have to make a vlog to feel better. But there are lots of ways to make friends. Internet. You find them on chat rooms. You don't know if they're real. They could be robots, but still, robots are kind of cool. If you're in school, perhaps you can get involved with an after-school activity. But if you're in college, there's probably a ton of parties out there. The ping pong, the red cup game. If you've graduated, like I said, there's the internet. There's sites like meetup.com where you can find groups based on your age and interest. I ain't getting paid to advertise that site. I kind of think I should be. Another tip is I find music to be a little bit helpful, whether it's music that's just as sad as you are or music to inspire you to be happy. I like 8-bit because it's got the beep boop and bops and those make me happy. I'm such a fan of music, you would think that this part would be longer, but it's not. Sleep can be a reason why you feel bleh. Maybe you're getting the wrong amount of sleep and that's why you're feeling unbalanced. They have apps that keep track of the type of sleep you're having. It can keep track of how much REM you're getting. It keep track of what the temperature is, or maybe why you're waking up at night, or if you're rolling around a lot. It can tell you exactly how much sleep you got. It's kind of a weird robot application kind of thing, but it can help you discover that maybe you're not getting the right amount of sleep or the right kind of sleep. And that could be the reason why you're feeling bad.
So make sure you're getting enough sleep. 8 hours. I don't know if it's 8. It could be 7. Just more. Just make sure it's more than 2.
There are so many ways to fight depression, anxiety, and stress that I don't remember if I got them all. But I think one of the most important things to remember is that you have a support system. You have people who care about you. Hell, I wouldn't have made this thing if I didn't care. And you might not even know me. And I really do care because I struggle with it and I know exactly how painful it is. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not hold it in. You have nothing to feel ashamed about. You shouldn't feel embarrassed. You shouldn't feel belittled by the fact that you have this situation going on. Don't feel like it makes you less of a person. It doesn't. It's just part of life. Life throws a lot of stuff at us. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions or you just need somebody to talk to. I'll put my email down below in the comments. If you have anything you wish to share about yourself, feel free to do so. I hope this helped. Go have a banana. I'm gonna do it.